Hi, good evening, everyone. My name's David, and this evening I am running a session of Comrades. Comrades is a role-playing game based on the Apocalypse World engine, a Powered by the Apocalypse game. It's written by W.M. Akers, and Comrades is a game about a revolutionary force fighting against an oppressive authoritarian regime. In the game of Comrades I'm running this evening, the struggle will be taking place on the fictional Caribbean island of San Judas Tadeo, which is quite heavily, put my cards on the table here, quite heavily influenced by Cuba at the time of the sort of revolution in the late 50s, early 60s. So that's kind of the theme we're going for this evening. This ostensibly would have been the fourth game in the series of 5. Unfortunately, we weren't able to record our first session as Google was having a bit of a meltdown on the day we were running, so we weren't able to use Hangouts in there to record it. And we unfortunately lost the intervening 2 sessions due to scheduling issues, illness, and the like. So this will actually, in reality, be the second session of this we're running with a slightly changed cast from the first episode. So we will have a little bit of catching up to do and introducing all of our characters to each other and to the world. So we are our revolutionary group is known as the Freedom Shift. When first established, we established that they were kind of a fairly loose coalition of general anti-capitalist and socialist activists fighting against the right-wing dictatorship that is currently in control of San Judas Tadeo, underneath the command of President Diaz, who controls the country through links to the military and powerful economic forces, including the Consolidated Fruit Company, a US-backed multinational fruit corporation. The Freedom Shift, as I said, had been establishing last time had been after having established a union, had been to get independent workers' rights, had been campaigning against the government and against the San Judas Labor Federation, who are a state-backed union who have de facto control over much of the industry within the capital of San Judas. Last time we saw the Comrades argue against and break a picket that the San Judas Labor Federation had against a cigar factory that had gone independent and had got their workers in and were starting to spread their message amongst the workers of San Judas. So far, the party has what are called the pathways to revolution. These are essentially bonuses, as it were. These are things that the party can get that help them in their goal of achieving revolution by acting in certain ways throughout the game. You may want to turn your attention to those briefly. In the party tab there, basically when if you trigger the condition for one or more of these pathways to revolution, we will roll a move at the end of the session. If you roll well, then you get to up the your level in that particular pathway, which gives you some bonuses. Currently, the only pathway to revolution that you have activated is the zealotry path, This activates when your party does something high profile to inspire the oppressed masses. And the bonuses that you get for this being in effect are that you have supporters everywhere. In any setting in which NPCs are not clearly aligned with another faction, a good number of them will support you. The second bonus you've got from your second advance is that your party has a media organ which becomes hugely popular, and you can use it to activate your message to the masses quite effectively. We have a couple of comrades that will not be joining us this evening. These are most notably our worker, our representative of the workers, Oscar Vargas Galan, and Miguel, the student. These two are probably both off. In their particular areas of influence in the university amongst the workers, spreading the message, but won't be taking a further part in the revolution. Our third character, the Danila, the artist, may be joining us next week. We shall see. So, with all that said and done, Yasmin, if I can ask you to start us off and introduce Ricarda, our professional.
Right, Ricarda is a professional revolutionary. She has been fighting in a lot of conflicts in South and Latin America already, and has been recruited by the Freedom Shift because they wanted to do more than just do unorganized protests and be kind of union adjacent. So she she's here to kick things up and actually get some revolution going. And she doesn't think too highly of every one of her comrades here, and also is someone who is not opposed to using violent means to reach our revolutionary goals.
Brilliant, thank you very much. Yes, Donna, if you would like to introduce Augusto.
So Augusto is a young, maybe early 20s Hispanic man. I think he is a veteran, if we can use that term for someone so young, of maybe the Colombian revolutionary conflict that's going on at this time. Maybe he's returned home as part of this ensuing conflict, maybe as part of the kind of professionalization of the revolution that Ricarda has prompted. But certainly an experienced soldier. Anything else worth noting about him at this stage? I think maybe a little bit distant from the party committees or their vision. Maybe he doesn't quite agree with this populist mass media path that they're taking, but we'll see how that goes.
Brilliant, thank you. And yes, actually, that you touched on just something there that I didn't mention about the party, because I didn't give the full breakdown on it. We sort of established at the last time that the party is very much, it doesn't really have a big, well, sorry, that's not true. I was going to say it's not like completely anarchist. It does have, but it's very much governed by a central committee. There is no or certainly up until this point, there has been no one particular leader. It's sort of several, a big central committee and subcommittees and all that thing that do a lot of the organising. Oh yeah, no worries, Adam. Well, Adam's just reconnecting there. Cool. And yeah, then once Adam has introduced his character, we'll then go through and sort out your bonds with each other. And yeah, as well, Yasmin, when we get to that point, feel free to, if you had any bonds that you had with characters that are no longer here, feel free to sort of reuse those. Hi, welcome back, Adam. How is it? How's the sound now?
Seems better.
Cool.
I often
cool.
have like spotty connections. I'd imagine a lot of you are not on the west coast of the U.S., so
Yeah, that's I think fair.
yeah, it's going across like a third of the world. So
yeah. No worries. So if you'd like to introduce Sophia, and then we'll go back through and do bonds with the characters.
sure. Yeah, so Sophia is an older lady, probably in her 50s, but she looks, I think, a lot older. She has been involved, not necessarily in this revolution, but in just like general resistance for a very long time. She started out in like the rural, like agricultural thing. One of the first things that she did was like basically fight for maybe indigenous land rights or something like that. So she's been, and then that sort of moved on, sort of moved up and escalated. And pretty much throughout her entire life, she's like gone through periods of getting somewhat successful and then just having the movement she's fighting just get destroyed. She's a demagogue, but I think I'm playing the playbook in a somewhat unorthodox way because it doesn't manipulate people so much as she just like inspires people through oration, I think. And yeah, I think she very recently, probably within like the last few months, there was like an assassination attempt on her, right? And it was this whole big thing, right? And I think she has spent a lot of the past few months like recovering from that, and now she's sort of just emerging from that. Probably, this is like maybe her experience with the assassination attempt is what got her involved in the party in the first place, from whatever she was doing before.
Yes, that definitely sounds good. And the one of the big parts, actually, but I mean, again, drawing heavily on the historical context for this. One of the big points in the movement at the minute is that the urban workers in general are actually quite well off in the grand scheme of things, and it is very much the rural laborers, agricultural laborers, who are really bearing the brunt of the economic exploitation that goes on the island. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That Sophia would be coming from that sort of background. Yeah, cool. Thank you very much. What we are going to do now is I'll probably go back through in playbook order. So I'll go back to Yasmin. And as I said, you'll each have a number of questions on your playbook. You can ask one of those that you think is interesting, and to create a bond with another character. Anyone can volunteer to say, actually, I think it would make sense if that were me, and we'll adjust bond as necessary. One thing I will point out from the mechanical side at this point, your bond is the bond that you have with another character. So these bonds will set what your bond with that character is on sort of your character sheet, essentially. The bond that you have and the bond that another character has with you aren't actually related. They're independent of each other. So you might have +3 bond with someone, but they may have -1 with you because you trust them and you think they're great, but they don't actually like the look of you or whatever. And that's fine. That's not an issue. Well, I mean, it might be an issue, but it's not a. That's sort of how the system works. Yasmin, if you'd like to ask one of those questions and see who feels they fit in.
Sorry, I was muted. I think the question that is open now is who called me here to help in this revolution?
Yeah, I mean, ostensibly I might have. Because I think I realized that Because I think like the last thing that I was aligned with was the liberal opposition, and that's just not going. That's not doing it. So maybe I thought that maybe we need something more drastic.
Yep, and if you, that certainly seems that somebody might have been to us, particularly in light of you having been shot in the not too distant past. Certainly something that tends to radicalize people.
Yep.
Yeah.
Cool. So Sophia called me here, and I think of Augusto as an amateur in the revolution business, but I'm sure he can prove himself sooner or later. There is potential, but we start at a -1 bond, which is the
Okay,
default for my playbook.
Cool. Donna, how about Augusto?
I think I like two of these questions. The first one is, which of you cannot forgive what I did in the war? Whether that's a different war or this one, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, what did you do you think?
Maybe in a different war, I was on the wrong side. Maybe as a very young conscript in a different war, we put the end to one of your previous attempts at overthrowing the capitalist pigs.
Yeah.
I
was going to say, do you think you actually served in the San Judas military, perhaps when you first started out your career?
Yeah, maybe.
There's also a possibility that maybe you were sent overseas to fight in a previous revolution that maybe Ricarda had fought in. It's another option too.
Yeah. Both are possible. I'm sure I could carry a grudge from some previous fights.
Does that make sense if you think I'm an amateur, that, or is that what hurts the most? Maybe that some amateur could have been involved in destiny?
That's why despite you being obviously trained in fighting and a soldier, think of you as an amateur because you're new to this, to the revolutionary side of fighting. You don't know how to do guerrilla stuff. Of course, we don't know if we can trust you.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that works for me. So that gives me a -2.
Cool. And Adam, if you want to ask one of your questions for Sophia.
Yeah, so I think I'm going to skip the first one because I don't think my person would have ordered anybody to hurt anybody. I think I'm which of you sees the face I do not show the public makes sense. Because one of the things that's going on with Sophia is that she outwardly presents this very hopeful, we're going to figure this out at some point. But I think she's just been going through this for so damn long that she stopped believing that it's ever actually going to be possible, or that at least she's very uncertain. That'd be somebody who maybe has a personal relationship with her, who has seen through the pleasant face that she puts on for everybody else.
Could be Ricarda because she has been in the game for a while.
Yeah. And you can definitely tell when somebody's faking it then. All right. That gives me a +2 bond with you, I think.
Cool. So, Ricardo, you'd sorted yours. That's fine. So, figuring myself in that mute there. So, yeah. Augusto, do you want to ask another one of your questions?
I think the one that interests me most between Augusto and Sofia is which of you saved my life. So maybe you vouched for me when I switched sides.
Sure. Yeah. I'm into that.
Cool. Do you think you had a personal relationship from before? Is that why Sofia vouched for Augusto, or is there another reason? Do you think?
Yeah, maybe. Maybe you were like, maybe we were from the same village or something. And I had like known you. I don't even know if I knew you very well, but certainly remembered your face.
Or maybe you knew one of my parents or something, or some older family member, and the age gap between us is pretty large, I think, right?
Yeah. I'm into that.
Cool.
And then like when the revolution was like trying to kill you, I just like stood in the way and was just like, no.
That sounds good. Cool. So yeah, Sophia, do you have another question that you want to ask? Or I mean, again, who it will be to is going to be fairly obvious if you do. As I said, don't feel that you have to, but if you think it's interesting, then go ahead.
Yeah, I don't think so. Unless the last one is which of you fears my ego will destroy the movement. The only way I could see that, maybe I'm not super enthused about it though. Unless somebody has a specific desire to have that one. I think I'll probably just not ask it.
Sure thing. That's fine. You should, like I said again, you should have a default option for anyone you haven't asked a question to there.
Yeah, my default is bond +1. Or, well, yeah. Because I like everybody, apparently.
Yeah. Cool. So, I'm just going to... ask a couple more quick questions before we begin, just to give us some context for our comrades and their involvement in the party, specifically at this point for our two new members. If I can find where those questions are, bear with me 1 second. Sorry, just trawling through the PDF. Sorry about this. No, we'll just... Okay, so there we go. Cool. So, yeah, I think I'm going to ask Augusto, what in particular made you embrace revolution?
I think you're muted.
Yeah, my mouse was acting up. It double clicked when I tried to unmute myself. I think maybe in the early days of the revolution, I was posted in the city, in the capital, where you could obviously see that the workers, as previously described, were doing pretty well, and so all of the news from the provinces filtered through the government's propaganda machine were obviously just completely out of kilter with his experiences. But then I think when he went home on leave, one holiday, he could see the state of his native village, um, the complete kind of hardship that was driven by the American consolidated group and the government and everything like that. And that was when his kind of stance on the revolution really changed. Maybe that's when he bumped into Sofia for the first time in their kind of recent history.
Yeah, that sounds cool. So, Sofia. If you could remake this world from the ground up, what would you create?
Yeah, I think I would probably just I would create a world essentially of like villages and communities, right? I'd probably end up creating something fairly anarchic. I think particularly I would like imagine the ideal future as like sort of like pastoral, rural, like smallhold farmers sort of working together.
Cool. I like that. And what would you sacrifice to bring that about?
I would definitely sacrifice industrial progress.
Sure thing.
I would let all of the industry in San Judas fall apart because I think it's part of the problem.
Cool. And actually, one question I will ask you as well, Augusto. Well, I mean, maybe the answer isn't as obvious as it seems, but are you comfortable using violence for political ends?
Well, I think he has obviously been on the wrong side and killed some people that he would now have considered fellow travelers in what he believes. So I think he is a little bit more cautious now than he used to be. But no real qualms about it because I think non-violent means aren't going to get the president out of his palace.
Sure thing. Brilliant. Thank you. Cool. Right. So that's brilliant. So I think that gives us a picture of sort of where we're at. Now, as I said last time, the group had been had been activated, had been active in sorting out their own union and sort of trying to displace the as I said, the sort of the state-backed yellow union, the San Judas Labor Federation. That work, I think, has been continuing apace. There is increased tensions and strife in this city as an increasing number of labourers are breaking away from the official union and joining this new union that's part of the freedom shift. I think it was it just called the Freedom Union? I think it was something like that. Anyway, as I said, this has led to clashes between the two groups on the streets. There has been not significant amounts of violence, but there has been some people have been coming to blows. The police have obviously been tending to intervene on the side of the San Judas Labor Federation. Not, they are still playing it a bit cagey, but wherever it's there's a case can be made that the other side started it, they will be in and cracking skulls and taking people in. Against this background, because we are looking at a slightly different aspect of the party today, what do you think your plans are? And I mean, feel free to we can either have this discussion in character, or if we just want to have a bit of an out of, I think they will say maybe a bit of an out of character chat first, just to kind of get an idea of what people want to try and move towards this session, and then I'll sort of start throwing some stuff your way.
Yeah, I mean, I think Sofia, I think maybe will be like the first or the second time even that she's met with any members of this group. I think, like, any members of the party, because she's a very new inductee. She'll probably be keen on trying to expand its horizons away from the industrial side of things and towards the oppression in the fields.
Awesome, that sounds good. So yeah, I guess Ricarda, what's your opinion on that?
Yeah, the farmers are a backbone for our revolution. Also, we do need places to hide if it really comes to an armed revolution or a civil war, and having allies out in the fields is a great way to do this. I suggest we will redistribute some of the wealth that the laborers of the workers the field brings, because they provide the tobacco and fruit for all the factories in the city, and I'm sure we should give something back to them to earn their trust and show that we are on their side.
Awesome. And yeah, Augusto, do you think this is a plan that he can get behind? I mean, obviously, again, he's from the country originally. What was his sort of obviously he joined the army as a young man. What was his family's situation like, do you think?
I think subsistence farming, but maybe your options as a younger son there are, especially if there's a bad few harvests, you've got to get some kind of wage package to help out. So maybe joining the army initially was just an economic necessity. So yeah, I think maybe he feels like, given that he's not earning that government salary anymore, he's got to help them in some other way. And I think Ricarda is absolutely correct. You can't hide out in the city, or you can't try at least, but that's where the government center of power is. It's going to be very difficult to do urban guerrilla warfare without a place to slink back to in the countryside. So yeah, it's a good plan.
Perfect. That's cool. I think we will look at something rural based today then. I will give that some thought and give you some ideas, and obviously as well, if you want to think about the sort of stuff you might want to try and get up to, and I'll give you sort of something to work with. So we're just coming up to the hour now, so we'll take if we come back about 5 past, and then we'll kick off our session proper. Cool. Welcome back, everyone. So I was just fiddling about in another tab. Cool. So I think what you've there has recently been a strike taking place, protesting against a local landowner out in the small village called Cascadas, which is sort of in the foothills of the big mountain range at the center of the island. They have, I mean, basically, you know, they're protesting against the poor working conditions, poor living conditions that they're sort of suffering under, the situation has sort of been escalating recently. You've heard rumors that the military are possibly going to be sent in to disperse the protesters, essentially. The local landowner you will be aware of is a man by the name of Don Federico Villapanda. I've put that name in the NPCs tab in the coach sheet if you want to see it written down. He is a member of the National Party, which is called the San Judas Unity Party. It essentially was the political party that President Diaz was a member of when he was legitimately in power. And the party still exists, if mostly only as a social club rather than an active political party. But he is connected. He's wealthy. And I think that's the situation that you will be kind of faced with. So we will zoom in a moment to your actual presence in the village. But I'm interested to know first, how do you think that you're going to approach this, whether individually or as a collective?
Yeah, so I think probably, this happens a lot, right? I've seen this happen tons and tons and tons. And so I think Sofia would suppose that one of the reasons why the military can get away with this is because it just happens out in the middle of essentially nowhere, and there's never any press coverage. And there's usually not a whole lot of people in these things because it's hard to organize. So they just go in and round up the few hundred folks who are there. So I think her plan would be to try and get some of those industrial workers maybe, or some of the urban folks to actually come out. So instead of there being hundreds, there's like thousands, and journalists and whatnot. And then maybe the government won't have the confidence to invade.
Cool. Yeah, that sounds good. That sounds good. So I guess for the other two of you, are you happy to go along with this plan to start off with? Is there anything else you would rather do, or any contingencies you'd like to put into place at this point?
Yeah, if we bring people from the city, like I suggested, we should also bring some stuff that helps out the rural folks, so they know our solidarity.
Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah, that sounds good.
I mean, it's a good job I am not in command or even in charge of any aspect of this, because my inclination is to cut off the head of the snake. If we string up this Don Federico, well, then maybe we'll make some progress. But this media strategy, I'm sure, will help our brothers and sisters back in the capital to see what's really going on. So yeah, I'm game for that. But who knows what chances I will take if I'm offered the right kind of bait.
Perfect. Yeah, that sounds good. So I think. Yes, so you definitely have, as I said, the party itself has good, media connections. I'm using the loosest sense of the word. You have at this point your underground newspaper essentially has quite a strong following throughout the country, and is quite popular and quite widely believed. So even if you don't necessarily get like independent media types along, you will definitely be able to get your own message out and to the people. So that's cool. Yeah, so I think what we'll do actually then is we'll start by I think I'll frame a scene actually back in the capital still at this point. And I think reports have recently reached you about this ongoing strike in Cascadas. It's not, it's not that far outside of the capital. It's maybe 15, 20 miles or so. Far enough away that it is sort of out in the sticks, as it were, but not. It's not a huge trek to get there. So I think what I would like to see is because I think this plays quite nicely into one of the moves, and I think that would be a good way of sort of establishing how this is looking from the outset. If we can have you rallying support amongst sort of the union members and the urban workers who are sort of gathered at this at sort of your meeting. It's in this. I think it probably is actually in the cigar factory that we saw from last time. It's kind of become one of the focal points for the party, for the freedom shift. There's kind of I'm imagining sort of people gather in the body of the factory after hours, and there's one of those big, it's like manager's office at the top with a walkway on it that can be used for sort of addressing the gathered crowd. So yeah, there is a move called, and I will just quickly check that I get the right name, start something, which is when you try to provoke a crowd to strike, demonstrate, riot, or brawl. And then there's outcomes for that. So I think I would like to see. I mean, it seems an obvious choice, but do you think Sofia is going to be leading this call for action?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like maybe a little bit before that, she would be like, I don't know, in like an office or somewhere, sort of in the back with Augusto and Ricarda, I would imagine.
Yeah.
And yeah, we just sort of like see her. She's sort of standing. She's got a cane with her, and she's sort of like leaning over a table, and she says, probably specifically to Ricarda, she says, I must say, these are not my people. I have not been in active contact with the urban comrades for a long time. Tell me, Ricarda, you seem to have been able to speak to them. What do they need to hear?
Well, they are our people, since they want the same things and are in solidarity with our cause of action. So you just need to find the words. You are from the country and you are asking them to help. So just explain to them why they need your help. Why you and our friends the farmers need their help, and how this will be the next step in bringing freedom to this to our nation, and how freedom can't just be limited to the city. I think that's something that they'd like to hear, or that's something you can tell them, and something you know about. You don't have to ask them as one of them. You can just ask them as someone from the place we need them to help.
Yeah, I just sort of like nod, and I go, and Augusto, are these people familiar with violence? I know how these things go. The military's not simply going to back down. Not likely, at least.
Well, I'm sure if you've ever been out in the streets late on a Friday night, you'll have seen a bit of impromptu violence erupt over less cause than we have now. So I think we just need to tell them that we have their back. If things do kick off, that we will help them, or rural comrades will help them. We're all in this together, right?
Of course.
Maybe it's like a football team, right? If they're the forwards and the countryside is the defenders, we all have to win or lose together. The job is different, but
Yeah, he just sort of nods and says, a football team. I like that. And then she turns and sort of slowly walks out of this office, essentially, and then onto the the elevated section. So when I do, what do I see, David? Like, how many people are here, and what sort of state are they in?
So currently, I think we'll say there's maybe a couple of hundred people here. Fairly big. It's at the minute, I think it's kind of that. It's got that kind of very, like I said, it's a very kind of ad hoc type setup here, and I think there's it's that sort of cross between. There are just people basically sat about having a chat. Having a chat is probably putting it a bit mildly, but there's people around talking. There's definitely quite a few people here who are, the people who are here are generally political activists. There's a few sort of debates going on about particular strategy and tactics and all that sort of thing. There's probably some food being served. There's a big catering vat of rice and beans and plantains and that sort of being served up to people as a sort of meal. I think that it's kind of, people are expect that there probably is a rough agenda to these sort of things. This is, people are gathered here basically for this sort of thing to happen. That they're broadly sort of on.
Yeah.
These are, you're talking to an audience of supporters essentially, rather than just a random cross section of society.
Yeah, I think sort of before she gets up, we see her sort of very slowly, somewhat painfully, slip on this suit essentially. That's not in a good circumstance, right? It's covered in old dried blood that's been partially cleaned off, but not entirely. And we see there's like this big, like hole essentially in the front of it, right over her chest, that has been patched over with, I guess it would be like the red of socialism. And she sort of like walks up and she takes her cane and she just like hits it once against the railing. And then sort of waits for silence if that's going to happen.
Yeah, I think, like in these sort of situations, you get that kind of ripple of things quietening down as the people who are closest notice it first, and sort of they stop talking, and as other people hear their conversation stop, they look up at the gantry towards you, and yeah, slowly, it kind of calms down from that like loud animated talking that sort of filled the place to just a kind of gentle murmur of sort of people still having like private conversations with each other, but broadly paying attention your way.
Yeah, and she just sort of like wraps her hand around the railing and sort of like clenches it. See here, what does she say? I think she sort of says, our people have labored, suffered under the power of the imperialists and the oppressors for a very long time. It's long before there were factories for our people to sweat and bleed and die in. Since long before we even haven't had a government for ourselves, there had been individuals, some slaves, some brought in to die in the tobacco and the sugar fields. Millions and millions of people ground up in the gears of industry, out in the fields, where none can see them, where none can hear them. I appreciate all the great efforts that our industrial brethren have made over the course of this fight. What you have achieved is remarkable. The fight against the conservatives, against the reactionaries as you had, is heroic. And yet I feel that this will not be won in the factories. However important you are, however much you suffer, your suffering is only a fraction. The suffering in the fields. And your population only a small percentage of all those who need to be liberated. The real battle is to be won out in the farms. Won out where the CFC digs its claws into our people the deepest. So I would ask of you, my comrades, my industrial brethren, we need your strength in the fields. There is a village not far from here. The people are striking. They are trying to resist the encroachments of the imperialists. They are trying to take back their land so that they might earn an honest living. The military will destroy them. They are too few to fight for this cause alone. And so I would ask you to stand in solidarity with them, that we might bring the rural and the urban together, that we might join as one to overthrow this madness that has befallen our people. Will you join me?
Awesome. And yeah, there will be, shouts and people raising their fist in solidarity with your words. And if you would like to roll, start something, which is
shit. Out of 5. All right.
So, I think
experience.
You do take an experience. Yep. I should actually. Sorry, I should have. Do either of the other of you? This should technically happen before, but would either of you like to step in to aid with this speech, or do you just want to let it sit there?
Well, if we help, can we? I don't think we can give more than +1, can we? Or
if you roll a full success on an aid, it gives a +2. So it may not help anyway, but feel free to, because I should have given that option beforehand. But that's there. So it does. It's a little thing with PBTA. Some of the times you can use it retroactively, but in this case, you do specifically have to roll first. But as I didn't explain that, if you do want to kind of chime in and try and help out, then I will let it go this time.
I think maybe Augusto has maybe moved down from the gantry, right, to stand at the back of the crowd, and maybe he's thinking, maybe there might be one or two waverers that he might be able to relate some kind of personal story to. So maybe he's joining in with the odd rallying cry or whatever. So yeah, I'll try this. We'll see how the roll goes. So I'm rolling plus bond, right? So
that's right. Yeah, and it's the bond, your bond with Sophia.
Okay, well that's +3, so that's moderately plausible that I will I will affect some useful change here. 2, 6. So I rolled a 7, which +3 does get me to a 10. So,
nice. So yes, you give Sophia the +2. So yeah, you're kind of leading in and joining in and with sort of leading these chants, and it's probably something you have some experience with, at least from the military side of things, and you sort of get the crowd on your side. So that brings us up to a 7 on start something. On a 7 to 9, you get them to do what you want. However, you have to pick one of these options, of which there are 3.
Yeah.
One of them is that the mob is large, one of them is that the mob is peaceful, and one of which is that the mob heeds your instructions.
I will pick large. It seems very unlikely that they're gonna start fighting the rural workers. That'd be kind of weird.
Yeah.
And they can be violent. That's fine.
Yeah,
the military deserves that.
Yeah, no, that's cool. So yeah, I think as you meet up, you'll have arranged trucks and what have you to drive people out to Cascadas, and you get a big crowd of people. A few trucks full. I always hate going into specific numbers, but we're talking probably in the realms of 100 or so people, maybe a bit more than that. But yeah, the all eager to come and join in. You will definitely pick up on this, Ricarda. These people are angry and they're fired up, and they're full of spirit. But these people are not in any way an organized force. They are not used to working together. There is very little cohesion to the group. You strongly suspect these people are definitely going to turn up there and get involved, but actually getting them to do any kind of organized effort is going to be very difficult.
Yep. So you just have to point them into a general direction and then they will riot. That's
Yep, exactly.
Good. So how are we getting to the country?
So yeah, as I said, I think you've managed to commandeer a few trucks from the various industrial concerns at which people work, and from here and there, and a few cars and what have you. And I think you will leave the city in a sort of ragtag. Well, no, probably you won't leave in a convoy. You'll probably leave, by separate roads and meet up on the way, sort of thing. Because it would be a bit obvious otherwise. And as I said, while they're not necessarily organized, you can at least instill that amount of discipline in people, I think. Though, yes, again, there is perhaps a bit more shouting and jeering from the backs of trucks than you might want for getting people out without arousing attention. Cool. So I think with that, you will will cut. Unless anyone has anything they want to do in the intervening time before we go to the village itself.
Probably not.
Cool. We'll cut to the village. So I said Cascadas. It's I mean a small town village. However you want to phrase it, really, it's as I said, it's sort of nestled where the foothills start to rise up into the mountains. There is quite a lot of, particularly around in the foothills and around the mountains, there's a fair bit of jungle. Though on the side towards the city that you're approaching from, a lot of the land has been cleared for agriculture. As you drive down the mostly dirt roads at this point to the village, there are lots of fields. Primarily, there's actually a bit of coffee being grown up this way, and some fruit trees and some tobacco and the like. My knowledge of agriculture isn't great. You will notice that most of these fields are fairly empty at present. You'll see the odd tractor parked up here and there, but mostly it's looking fairly deserted. As you approach the village, as I said, you can see from a little distance. There's a river coming through this area. There's waterfalls not far from the village, which is where its name comes from. There's a big old colonial era church. This village has clearly been here for a while, and some sort of more permanent looking structures around the church, some housing there. In the outer things around the field, there's a lot of essentially shacks, little more than that. So some of them made of wood, some of them made of corrugated iron, corrugated tin with dirt floors. As you approach, you will be aware of there is a group of farmers, of workers in the central square of the village. They are shouting. They probably don't really have like placards. It's not that sort of protest really, but they are very visibly not working. And there are police around who are mostly watching the situation develop at the minute. They are armed. So yeah, I think you've probably gathered a little bit outside the village itself, mostly anyway. A few stragglers may not have met up with you here. A couple of trucks have gone another route, maybe. You're not sure. What do you want to do?
Yeah. Does somebody else have a thing they'd like to do? Anything in particular?
Are we interested in trying to kind of get the police out of here, or trying to co-opt them as allies, or are they all in the same kind of boat as the army?
I would not suspect that we can turn the police on our side already, but maybe some of them might like us. Yes, so I'm sure we looked at maps of the environment and things like this. So do we know where the next army or police barracks are? So how much time we have if this really escalates to get out of the way?
Sure. So there is a small army. Army base is probably a bit too strong a word for it. A sort of little garrison. It's maybe a few miles away. There's then a larger sort of local army base that's maybe then another little ways further on from that. It would probably take, to actually mobilize forces from the larger base would probably take at least an hour or so, probably longer if they're not specifically on alert. The local base is obviously the one where you'd expect any immediate response to come from. They could probably be here within sort of call it 20 minutes or so. And those ones you suspect very strongly will be on high alert at the minute because they're expecting trouble.
Yeah.
Unless we cut the telegraph or telephone wires, right?
Yeah, that's certainly a possibility. You think so? For actually, this sounds right. I realised that we are probably we could probably go for a what's going on here roll. As you are all taking a moment to assess a personal situation.
I was wanting to do that anyways.
So
maybe like,
yeah,
go ahead.
No, I was going to say. So I mean, you can each make one of these if you wish to. You don't have to, but I feel like, well, certainly so far, Ricarda and Augusto have been asking questions in that sort of direction. So feel free to make it. And obviously, if you also want to position yourself for that, Sofia, that's cool.
Yeah, I mean, I think basically, like, sort of in character, we would see like Ricarda and Augusto talking about the like the tactics of all this, right? Like, how's the military going to come into play? But I'm sort of like off to the side, and I'm looking at the plaza itself, and particularly eyeing the police, trying to understand what's going on with them.
Sure thing. Cool. So yeah, as you just asked, Sophia, if you want to roll for yours first to get that feel of the local vibe, then we'll go to the other two if they wish to do similar.
I'm the blue dice, and I have rolled 12.
Nice. I don't think a 12 does anything special in this, but other than that's definitely a success. So you get to ask 3 questions from the list there.
Okay. So probably who is the biggest threat makes sense here.
Certainly. So the biggest threat is the military. If things escalate here, so I will give you this because that's kind of what is the threat. So yeah, the big threat here is the reason why the military could be a threat but aren't currently actually here is because so far the locals have been very careful they have been protesting, but they haven't been taking any violent action. The police haven't yet done anything to escalate the situation. They're containing them. If actual violence breaks out, that will give the military cause essentially to move in. You suspect very strongly they are waiting for that cause to happen, and there's a very good chance that they will be given that cause one way or another. But yeah,
so I just sort of realized that maybe I turned back to like our group of folks who are not organized at all. How can I get them to resist without getting violent, like our protesters that we shipped in?
Right. Yes. So it's going to be difficult. You will need to basically you will need to sort of corral them all, and I think you will need to give them like a specific you'll need to give them something. You will need to give them something specific to do, and they're likely to do that. The one thing you are aware of is that this crowd is quite volatile. If one of the things you don't think you'll be able to avoid is if the police do something to provoke a reaction, they will almost certainly get it from this crowd.
All right. Then how do I prevent the police from provoking a reaction then, for my third question?
Yeah, so the police, this isn't like the village that you are from, but it's not very different to the village you are from. It's a fairly it's a fairly typical village. You know that, or you very strongly suspect, the majority of the actual police force on the ground will be from here. This is their home. It's not quite got to the point yet where they're doing the thing of specifically posting police to areas that they're not from. That's possibly something that's coming not far in the future, but at the minute most of the police here are likely to be local. The commanders not necessarily, but the actual officers, the majority of them will be from here. They will have family from here. The way if you want to try and subvert or at least pacify them, then that sort of appeal to their family ties is probably the best way to go for it.
All right. So I'll start heading off to do that, and you can cut away from me.
Sure thing. Yeah, Augusto, Ricarda.
Is it worth one of us doing
that
same move?
One of you could aid the other, and then the other roll if you want to do it that way. That could make sense.
So I'm not sure what makes more sense. Maybe if Ricarda is in kind of a leadership position, she's sending Augusto to kind of scope the place out, and she's helping him. Does that make sense to you?
Yep, that makes sense.
Okay. So I'll roll plus mine to scope the place out. That's -1.
Yeah, Ricarda, do you wish to roll to aid on that, or do you want to make a roll of your own, do you think?
No, I will aid.
Sure thing.
So that's plus bond, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
rolled an
-1,
8,
so this is a 7.
Cool. So you give a +1 to Augusto.
Yeah, I rolled an 8, so that is -1 to 7, so back up to an 8. So no change. The 7 to 9.
Cool. So that means you get to ask one question, I believe.
I guess we're wondering if I'm wondering if we are missing anything. What am I missing? Seems like an interesting question at this stage. Do you have a general sense of the place?
Certainly. Okay. Yeah, you notice something. So, as I said, there's this big demonstration going on in the plaza. There is a there's chanting, there's people sort of stood there defiantly. So not really placards, but it's clearly a demonstration. The police are all around. There's not really many people. Like, people are basically either in the demonstration or off the streets. There's not really much in between. However, what you do notice is there is a man sat outside, like a little cafe on the plaza. He's sat there. He's got a little cup of coffee. He's a white European-looking man. He's tall, over 6 foot. He's got kind of a fairly short haircut. He's wearing fatigues, not like an actual uniform, but sort of basically kind of jungle camouflage fatigues. Doesn't appear to have a gun on him, at least not a long arm that you can see. And he's sat there smoking a cigarette, drinking a coffee, and watching this demonstration.
Yeah, I guess I'll report this back. Are we taking that kind of option to maybe cut the telephone wires so that if things do kick off, we buy ourselves a little bit of extra time until the army come in? Okay.
I think we could do this, or we I think we should cut them right now when we are rolling into town. There's no way to keep this a secret.
Yeah.
Cool. Yep. Brilliant. So, I think it probably makes sense if we do that a little bit first, because that will probably happen before Sophia has a chance to sort of sneak into town is possibly not quite the right word for what she's doing, but get into town and start talking to people. But I think you'll be able to see there's a little a small police station. It's not like a big thing, but there is a small police station. It probably has. It's probably notable for the fact that it has one of about like 3 phone lines in the village going to it. It's probably basically there, the cafe, and one goes off. You probably actually do notice there is like a kind of a big plantation house, hacienda style house, a bit out of town, but you can see it kind of nestled in the foothills, and there is a telephone line going out to there as well, unsurprisingly. But both Ricarda and Augusto are going to try and take out the phone lines, or is just one of you going to go ahead?
I think we are both going. One is having the back of the other person, and since I have been in revolutions before, it's not the first time that I'm cutting active lines. So let's have Augusto watch my back, and I'll climb the pole and cut the wires.
Excellent. That sounds cool. Just wondering. Oh yeah, so sorry, that's it. I knew there was one there. There is, in fact, the sneak move, which is probably the one we want to be using at the moment. Because I was going to say it's not really a mad risk, so not take a risk. But yeah, so if you could roll, please, with Guile.
So that's a 9.
9. Okay. So on a 9, You managed to sneak past the enemy. In this case, you managed to get to the phone lines fine. However, you pick one. You waste no time. You incur no costs, or you draw no suspicion.
Let's not. If we waste, do we have to pick waste no time, or if we don't want a call to get out, or are the other options viable as well?
No, I think you'll be. You can pick any of them. I don't think there'll be an alert call will go out, but depending on what you pick will affect other things. I think whatever happens, you will be able to take out the lines before they're able to call in for backup.
It was no time, no cost, or no suspicion, right?
That's it. Yeah.
Let's don't have costs. I mean, we rolled into town with a bunch of cars filled with guys, and suddenly the phones are going out. I see how they can be suspicious, and but I think we have the time, so let's don't have additional costs.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, so you like I said, it takes you because as well you're sort of you are like leading on ahead, but you've had to kind of spend a bit of time pacifying your people and basically saying don't run off and start anything while we're gone, and you head in. It's you have to do that sort of thing. That it's not like I said, there aren't loads of police here, but there are a number. And they are mostly focused on the plaza, but you do have to kind of do that thing of like finding somewhere and scoping out where the police are. And there is a guy who is doing a patrol, and you have to kind of wait for him to go past. So whilst this is happening, Sophia will be making her way into the town as well, and we'll catch up with her in a second. And yes, you cut the phone line, and you'll actually notice this as you cut the line. In fact, so I figure actually because you know what you're doing really with this sort of thing. And you actually, rather than just like cutting the lines on the thing itself where it would be very obvious, you actually take out basically the junction box where it goes into the police station. But as you do that and as you cut it, you could hear that sort of soft murmur of someone talking inside, and just after you cut it, there's a sudden shout, and you realize that the someone inside was probably on the telephone when you cut the line, so they have been alerted that something is up. And with that, we will go to Sophia.
Yeah, so Sophia's not being stealthy at all. She's just like walking through the middle of the street, essentially. She's basically going to walk up to whatever's like a reasonable concentration of police, but specifically one where I don't think any of their like out of town leaders might be.
Yeah, sure thing. Yeah, there's sort of a corner where there's a couple of, again, sort of young looking police officers, sort of probably only in their maybe in their early 20s, who are sort of stood there. They're doing that sort of thing where they're obviously they are paying attention to like what's going on, but they've also obviously been doing this for a little while, and they're just sort of basically chatting to each other.
Yeah, and I walk up to them essentially.
Yeah. What are you doing out, Auntie? This is a you should probably be back at home. These people are stirring up trouble.
Would that I could. Well, the gunshot is still painful, but I must stay out here, I think. Important things at stake. I sort of like turn around and I look at the big colonial church, essentially.
Yeah.
And I say, so I sort of like turn back to him and I say, beautiful building. Do you pray, officer?
Of course, we go to church every Sunday.
A good man you are, I think. Though, there are so many good men in this place who lose their way. So much has befallen San Judas. So much suffering. I know you must have seen it in the villages. The people, perhaps your fathers, your mothers, your sisters, your brothers, suffering in the fields.
And I think he'll kind of eye you and say, look, this is just the way things are. And he kind of waves towards the crowd in the churchyard. This isn't going to change anything. It'll still be the same. The only way is to get a real job. And he'll kind of, shrug and say, look, police, the army, moving to the city. If these people want to change their lives, that's what they need to do.
I will agree with you. And she sort of like gestures back. That these people doing what they're doing right now, it's not going to save things. It's not going to change things. The army will simply sweep in and they'll murder them, and they'll shoot up the entire town while they're doing so. Might destroy the church. They're godless individuals, most of them. At least as it stands now, things won't change. But if the army doesn't come in, well, surely you've heard that there is a movement stirring. There are better ways than this, and all of us have a part to play. Even those of us who cannot afford to for fear of being destroyed by the powers that be. Sometimes all it takes to support the revolution is just keep your cool. If you can prevent violence from forming here, then I promise you this will be the start of something important. Something important that you're a part of. Something important that your children and your grandchildren will remember you by. All you need to do is keep from getting violent. You and your friends. Please.
Excellent.
I would like to argue that this is join the party.
I would definitely agree with that. So yeah, go ahead and roll with
Spirit, I think, right?
Spirit. Yep, Spirit.
All right, that's 12.
Nice. Yes, these two officers that you are speaking to will interpret join the party here in the sense that they will well, I mean, they will, basically they will join the movement, if not overtly at the moment. And you get to pick two from the list, which is they are competent, they are loyal, and they bring their friends.
Yeah, I will choose they bring their friends. I would like them to bring in as many police officers as they can to this.
Yeah.
I think I will choose they are competent. I want them to be good at discipline. I want them to be disciplined.
Yep. No, and that makes sense. I think that it makes sense they're not necessarily loyal because I think, certainly the approach that you took to them and their position means that they probably still don't necessarily support the ideology of the party, so they're not loyal in that sense, but they are going to do what they are going to specifically not try and spark off violence here. And that they will, you'll I think one of them is going to kind of look around and he will lower his voice and say, those sort of words are dangerous and they could get you in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, I just look down at my jacket and I say, they already have.
Well, I expect I expect the same from you. We don't want this to get violent, but like you say, the army will come and they will use deadly force. We'll do what we can to keep things calm, but I expect the same from you. And he's sort of going to nod to, and his fellow officer will sort of remain where he is. But you see him walking off, and he walks a little bit up the road to where there's another sort of couple of guys stood, and he'll have a hushed conversation with them.
All right. So I'll like nod at him as he sort of leaves. Maybe I will like reach out and just like touch him on the shoulder lightly, and then I'm going to go head back to our people to try and calm them down.
Sure thing. Cool. And we will take another quick 5-minute break there, and then come back and see how this all goes down. Thank you. And yes, it's seen about that yet. 7 past thereabouts. Cool. Welcome back, everyone. So, as Sophia heads back to the assembled crowds outside of town, I think Augusto, you're watching Ricarda's back as she cuts the phone line to the police station. You will notice as she's starting to sort of what's the word, sneak away from that was another word I was looking for, but anyway, away from the police station back to where you're stationed, you will notice that somebody he's dressed in clearly like a police officer, as in like a police commander's uniform. He's got kind of big shiny gold epaulets and what have you, and he has grabbed one of the other police officers stood guard outside the front of the police station, and is gesticulating towards the back of the building where the phone hookup is. What do you do?
So I think at the very least, I want to make sure that they don't find her clambering down from the pole or the side of the building where she has cut the wire. So I'm just going to, tuck the newspaper I've been pretending to read under my elbow and lean against the wall, and or maybe approach them. Maybe with something innocuous on my mind, like asking them for a light from my cigarette or something like this, just to buy her time to be less guilty when they arrive on the scene.
Sure thing. Yeah, I think this sounds like it sounds like you're just straight up taking a risk here, to be honest. I think, mad risk is a bit of a loaded one. I feel like, putting yourself between a couple of irate policemen and your teammate is a mad risk for the revolution. So roll with spirit.
That is an 8 total.
An 8 total, right?
Yeah.
So you you intercept the policeman as he is coming around the corner, and you ask him for a light, and he says, "What the hell are you talking about? What are you doing here?" And you see that kind of look of I suppose technically the opposite of recognition, but you see that that look inside as he realizes he doesn't have any idea who you are and what you're doing here. As this happens, Ricarda has managed to get away from get down from the building and away, or at least as far away as she wishes to get. But then you can see that kind of steely that come into his eye and say, "I don't recognize you. What are you doing here?"
Well, I'm with our friend at the cantina. So, of course, Augusto has no idea who he's putting himself into bed with, so to speak. But he's imagining that there's some kind of nefarious external involvement. So he's all too happy to muddy the waters in that regard, cool, even though it might get them into more trouble.
He looks you over. How are you dressed at the minute? Out of curiosity.
I think I had decided, in terms of the general look, that he's usually wearing fatigues, but maybe that makes less sense for this kind of operation. Maybe we'll stick with it. The well-worn fatigues is what
Cool.
I chose for his look. So
Yeah.
we're on a mission. There's no
Yeah.
problem with that.
Are you carrying any weaponry with you as well, concealed or otherwise?
Yeah, I think maybe there's an ex-army issue revolver or something like that tucked into his waistband, but as concealed as you can get. Maybe a professional eye will spot it, but not otherwise.
In which case, yeah, he will kind of look you up and down and say, well, don't go sneaking around. I think something's going down. We've heard there might be some out-of-towners coming around here to kick up trouble. If you see anything, well, I'm sure you and your people know how to deal with them.
Well, are you prepared to cover up any of our violent measures?
Well, if needed, but let's hope it doesn't get too out of hand, eh?
Of course, Commander.
Yeah, and I think with that, you're able to get out of there. Without well, you've roused suspicion, but not overtly being had up for it. So cool. I'll say, and Ricardo, what you're able to kind of, you'll have seen this confrontation. Is there anything else you're wanting to do here?
Well, we have all the people on trucks, and we should get something started before they get bored and start it themselves.
Cool.
I trust that Sofia managed to stop the police from shooting people right away, but so we can march on the landowner's hacienda or wherever he lives and demand a fair share for the workers and farmers.
That sounds cool. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, if you want, we can assume you'll meet back up outside of town. There won't be any particular obstacle to you getting out. That's not really what they're interested in doing here. So,
can we make sure that I'm comparing notes with Sofia and Ricarda, to maybe see what they think about our foreign interloper? Is he someone from the American company, or maybe he's CIA or something, someone who is cooperating with the police anyway to spoil our revolution. Maybe we want to take some direct action of our own against him.
Yeah, should we take him out or should we take him with us?
I would prefer if we could avoid violence, at least for now. Perhaps we can catch him after the demonstration is done.
Okay. Let's do this then. So let's unite the farmers and workers and march on the landowner's place, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds like a plan. Also, you think that's obviously, as I said, at the minute the police are mostly focused on the plaza. So if you march on the hacienda, it's likely that you're less likely to come into immediate conflict with the police.
Yeah. Except we need to really march together. So
Yeah, and even better, it shows them that we are after the landowners and not, servants of the state.
yeah, the people are definitely going to get violent unless we do something.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think what I'll do is, first of all, I'll sort of stand in front of a group. I'm trying to figure out how not to make a guile roll because my guile is -1. What would be convincing this crowd to do another thing? Would that be another
It would probably be start something again. If there's a specific action that you want them, well, a specific action that falls within the losing my words, that falls within that list of. So the options I'll just remind again for start something. When you try to provoke a crowd to strike, demonstrate, riot, or brawl. I'd argue demonstrating probably fits for that. The one thing I will specifically point out here is a clear thing is it's very easy to move a crowd towards violence, and there is basically no way to stop them. That is an intentional part of the setup here. It's I'll say very easy. It's yeah. just so we're all on the same page with that. It does. Crowds tend to get messy.
All right. Well, I'm still going to try.
Yeah.
So I'll basically stand up as I do in front of them, and I will say, "I'm glad you could all be here. Now, it is very important that we acknowledge that we are guests here of the village. We will go and we will gather our rural comrades. And I would like you to mingle with them. I would like you to talk with them. I would like you to listen. And then we will march upon the hacienda. We'll march upon the landowner. We will demand our rights. We will demand fair pay for the workers. But if you could now follow under their lead, follow the plans that they have set in place, be with them in the way that they need for now, then in time they will join you in the way that you require them to. So I'm basically trying to get them to go there, talk with the folks, establish relationships.
Sure thing.
Which I'm sure is not going to prevent the violence, but
that's cool. No, and yeah, that basically that will there will be some kind of yells of assent, and the crowd will start moving down to sort of meet up with the group in the town.
I rolled a 5.
Oh no, it's okay. I was going to say I'm not asking for all there. That's just something they will do. How well they will adhere to what you want from them is questionable, but they're certainly happy for the time being to just go down and mingle with that group, embolden their numbers with the intent that you'll go on and do something else. How well they'll keep their cool is another question, but they're certainly they're not going to sort of immediately go into town and start beating up policemen. And so this crowd starts moving in, and you will see as this large group of people starts moving into the town. A few of the police officers, they kind of they initially look like they're going to block their passage, but then they kind of just back off and allow your people to enter the plaza. The police are looking a bit nervous at this, but they're currently not doing anything. They're not taking any action to stop it, to interfere. And the crowd. They said the crowd in the plaza swells with your new entrance. as I say, yeah, the police for the moment are standing their ground. They're not doing anything to stop this. They're not backing out entirely. They're watching and waiting. Yeah, what do you do?
Yeah, I mean, we need to start getting these folks over to the plantation now.
Yep, sure thing. So yeah, who's going to again? It will probably take someone like at the minute. I mean, the idea of marching on the hacienda may be spreading amongst the crowd from the people you've brought in, but currently they're sort of still doing their own thing. So if someone wants to try and instigate something here, then feel free to do so.
Yeah, I'll sort of like wait for a few minutes to try and get like some, folks talking at least a little bit. And then I'll just sort of like address them, and I will say, my royal brothers, our urban comrades have come to join us in our march on the hacienda. I suggest we make our way and show the capitalists that we will not be divided in the face of their tyranny. Come. And I'll start trying to lead them off to the plantation.
Sure thing. Yeah. So now if I can get a roll with spirit, please, for a start something. Wait, do I mean spirit? Yes, I do mean spirit.
All right, 12. That's better.
Sure thing. So yeah, on a 10 up, it goes the way you want, at least at first. So yeah, you get the crowd moving, and they sort of follow your lead and start heading towards the hacienda. The police, again, they're not moving to stop them. They are, but you will notice the police commander has dispatches somebody on like a motorbike, basically, to you assume to courier a message to the army.
Is that something we are against?
Yep.
Yeah. Do
You
we want to break our fast from this anti-violence maxim that we're currently under? What do you think?
Yeah, I guess I sort of like look off at it, and I say, I fear it might be difficult or impossible. I look over at like Augusto, and I say, do you think you could fortify the hacienda if we took control of it?
I mean, that might be a very bloody day, but I'm sure they'll sing songs about us in the.
Yeah, if we barricade the hacienda, this becomes a siege. And we are stuck here. And of course, we can hope that the support is big enough that people come to break us out. But if not, we might become martyrs of this revolution. And we can have martyrs more easily if we keep demonstrating outside the hacienda and wait for the army to take the first shots, then disperse.
I'm not an expert in military affairs, I will admit. But this land belongs to these people. Their families have likely lived here for hundreds of years. Surely we must defend those claims. Surely we must show that the people are willing to stand by this, that we're not just going to run at the first sign of trouble. If you think that it is a suicide mission, I will acquiesce to your greater experience, but I would prefer to stand in defense of the land of our people than to simply let it fall again.
Do we have any of our external newspaper or radio people along for the ride?
Yes, I think so. In fact, I think I will bear with me 1 second. I think I have at least one journalist in my list of NPCs. Yes, you do indeed. There is a young man by the name of Cao Sihang. He's actually part of the well, notable but relatively small Chinese population of the island. He's a reporter for the San Judas daily paper. He is along as part of the group. I mean, he isn't marching as part of the group, but he has come along to. He basically, your group managed to sort of tip him off that something was going down.
Because I wonder if we were to barricade ourselves into the hacienda, he could be making reports over the telephone line back to the capital, or to his office or something like that, which would maybe get our publicity machine going and maybe prevent it from being a last stand for the revolution.
Yeah, that's certainly possible. Yeah, I mean, if you want to approach him and attempt to get him on side, as it were, then feel free to do so.
Yeah, I think
you'll have seen him. He's, like I said, he probably turned up a little bit after, like, your, again, not convoy isn't quite the right word, but after your group got here. But yeah, I said one of your contacts basically tipped him off. He's sort of a fairly junior reporter at the minute. You've seen him sort of taking a few pictures of the crowd in the plaza, chatting with a couple of the police officers and taking notes as the crowd starts to move towards the hacienda. You'll see him sort of returning to his little car.
So yeah, I think maybe I'll poke my head in the window as he is maybe readying to turn the key in his ignition, and try to convince him, maybe through kind of describing how this has gone in the past, where there's no external witnesses, the army has carte blanche to do whatever they will, and nobody hears about the horrors that they inflict upon the local population. The extrajudicial murders, the burning of the fields, the whatever they think is necessary to put down any kind of struggle against the presidential diktat. But his presence might just stop that, and of course, make him make him a famous journalist in his own right.
Yeah, that sounds good. So yeah, if you want to roll to sway him, which is a roll with bear with me, which is a roll with guile. I believe you have a move that I think you just triggered as well, applying to that.
Yeah, if I mention the horrors of war while attempting to sway an NPC, add 1 to my roll. Okay. So okay, that is a 13.
Yeah. So on a 10 up, he will ask you for something small in return. So I think he'll say, well, you're right. This is going to be big. This could be a big story. I'll come up. I mean, I don't trust the military not to, well, stop me from getting my story out, if you know what I mean. But I'll come and do it. But well, there's two things that I'll ask. I just want you to, try and keep me safe if you need to. Like that would be really helpful. And the other thing, which I mean, it's a small thing. I think it's kind of what you want anyway. But I want if you get out of this alive, I'd like an interview with your leader.
Well, dead journalists tell no tales, so I'm sure you'll understand if it's in my best interest as well as yours that you survive this. You mean Miss Del Rosa there, or someone higher up?
Yeah, he'll nod. Yeah, the old one will be good for now.
Do we overhear this?
Sure.
Yes, you certainly can. You certainly can.
Yeah, so I think I sort of walk over and I say, I'd be more than glad to give you any information you need. I can describe the horrors that have been going on in this place, in the rural backwoods, in great detail. And I turn over to Ricarda and I say, Ricarda, it is best, I think, if we have agents remaining on the outside. Perhaps you could stay away from the defense. Defend our journalist friend?
Yep, I will do that.
And of course, help organize a response that will perhaps keep us alive from the outside. Unless you would prefer to martyr yourself.
Not yet. Sorry, but not yet.
I understand. It's not
do we want our journalist friend on the inside so that he can use the telephone line to kind of report live from the front? Was that our...
I thought we were... I don't know. Whatever you guys think's right.
No, I just, that's the way I positioned it in my head, at least, in terms of like avoiding a long drawn out siege. If we can have a voice on the inside relaying news live so that we can kind of drum up political support to stop the army just
that would
killing us all.
That could potentially work. Where is the next radio station?
Yeah, there is you could definitely try and call. There's I haven't got the details from, but yeah, there's definitely a radio station you could try and get in touch with, either through the phone or if you can rig up a radio, or you may even be able to like patch into the phone by jury rigging it or whatever, as needed. You can definitely find a way of communicating with the outside world if need be.
Cool, because then we can get the journalist inside and have a friendly radio station broadcast what is going on in the countryside, and maybe that mobilizes people and keeps the army from just massacring farmers.
Yeah, that sounds good. Cool. So I think we'll skip on a little bit. So as you as the group reaches the hacienda, there are armed men guarding the hacienda. That they are not military. They're just people with guns. You know, they're independently hired people. They're dressed. They're just sort of dressed in like basically sort of farmers' gear, but also holding guns. And I think as your sort of crowd starts to amass outside, they aren't currently they're not shooting, but they are very definitely stood like on. It's kind of got not quite guard posts, but it does have like a couple of little towers by the gate that they're sort of stood on, and up onto one of the towers, a man dressed in a sort of he's got sort of like a white suit, and he'll come out and he looks to be sort of in his probably a similar actually age to Sophia, though he looks like he's led a much easier life than she has. And he will get up onto this little tower and he'll say, "It is bad enough that you ingrates refuse to work for the money I pay you. But now you have the temerity to show up on my doorstep with your clamoring and your complaints. I tell you this now, if you set one foot onto my property, I will view it as trespass, and I will be well within my rights to deal with you as criminals." And you know, the men with guns make their presence, you know, obvious. So what do you do?
Yeah. So I just like, we sort of have like the line of the crowd, right? And then we sort of see Sophia just like walk out in front of it very slowly with her cane. Maybe we get a couple of moments of just like, it's kind of like a relatively far shot of her, and just like the only sound we can hear is like the clicking of her cane on the pavement or something like that. I sort of stand up and I sort of like look up at the towers. I look up at the tower that contains the guy in the white suit, and then I decidedly turn away from it and sort of address the guards more generally. Do they look like locals?
Yeah, again, they're almost certainly locals. They're probably just essentially farm labourers who have been given guns. I mean, that's not quite true. They're probably his, like, you know, inner circle, as it were. But yeah, they are, for all intents and purposes, they are locals.
Yeah. And so I'll just sort of like look at them and I will say, you would defend this man's claim to your land, to your home, to that which should belong to you. You would defend his right to keep you in wage slavery. You would defend his right to own your village, to own the land where your ancestors have lived for hundreds of years. You would defend his right to exploit your people, fathers, your mothers, your sisters, your brothers, sons and daughters. You would defend that. You would kill those who would stand beside you to defend this man's claim on your life, on your soul. Or perhaps you would help us reclaim this place, claim the land that was always ours. I think you will find, I sort of like looked up at the man and say, Emma, that a wealthy man is just a man, be stopped as easily as all the rest. But only if we work together, only if we join forces against them. Unless you would choose to be on the side of the American imperialists.
Cool. And that sounds like we've got another roll to Join the party. That's the word I was looking for.
All right, that is an 8.
An 8. Okay, so on an 8.
I get to choose one of the things, right?
That's it, I believe. So, yes, that's right. Sorry. Yes, on a yeah, that's it. So, yep, you will be able to sway them, but you choose one of the options rather than the two of them.
So if I do not choose, they bring their friends. Will all of the people in these guard towers still join in, or?
I think you probably want that to get them all to back down. Yeah.
Okay, I will choose. They bring their friends then. They don't need to be loyal or competent. They don't need to be part of the siege. That's fine.
No, that's fine. Cool. So yeah, I think a combination of your words and the fact that, despite the fact that they are well armed, that they are armed at all, sorry, remember my words. That while they are armed, there are still, there's maybe a dozen of these guys guarding the place in total, and there's a couple of hundred people in the crowd, and they're not trained soldiers. They will back down. They'll basically just, you see them kind of exchange that look, and kind of avert their gaze from from Don Federico, and they just march down the steps from the towers, and they will not offer any resistance to you entering the property. So yeah, I think from that point, the crowd, you will be able to basically occupy the hacienda without any trouble. The Don isn't able to put up any meaningful defense against a crowd of a couple hundred people. So what are you going to do? How are you going to what are you going to do with the hacienda now that you have it? And what are your plans for?
Let's take a look first. Like Ricarda is going in first, or as one of the first people, to take a look and not have it be ransacked at random. So she can distribute the important things. She can get any weapons or things needed for barricades and stuff into the hands of people who can use them. And just a general look at whatever is in there.
Yep, certainly. You will be able to secure some. So, like I said, you'll be able to secure weapons probably from the guys that both from the guys that were guarding the place, and there's probably some additional weaponry inside the building. We're not talking military hardware here, but there are some guns. And you can get stuff to start building a barricade. At this point, because like I said, the crowd you have is a bit unruly, there will be some kind of generalized looting of the place. People, there will be the classic thing of some people will break into the wine cellar, and bottles will start being passed around.
What happened to the plantation owner?
That's a very good question. What are you wanting to do with the plant? You will he will not meaningfully be able to escape you for long, if at all. So he is basically at your mercy.
Yeah, I think I look over at Ricarda and Augusto, and I say, what would you have us do to the imperialist?
Well, this is probably the time where you decide how you will deal with people like him. You can certainly just shoot him and be done with it. Put up an example, but maybe a trial would be in order.
No, please. I have money. You can take all my money. but please don't shoot me. Don't hurt me or my family.
Is your family living there?
Yes.
Send them away. But you will stay with us.
Very well. And I think, he will send word to with somebody. Well, basically, one of the people that was guarding him here will sort of head off to pass on that message to his family, and I'm going to straight up say they will manage to escape. That's not something I want to deal with, so we can put them out of danger for now. Cool.
But we're taking.
I think we need to set up our journalist friend on the telephone to get this live broadcast going. If we're going to have some kind of a kangaroo court or a show trial, I'm not sure if that's something we want to be broadcast as well.
Well, we are giving him the option to self-critique.
Yeah. Honest confession will be given some kind of credit when passing sentence, obviously.
Excellent. So yeah, I think we can probably just sort of we can have that happen. I think essentially he will he will recant, he'll essentially recant his sort of, and he'll sort of say, I know it was wrong of me to treat my workers poorly, and so on and so forth. I mean, exactly how sincere he is anyone's guess, but he will he's certainly willing to talk the talk to avoid being killed.
Great. I would like him to mention President Diaz by name as someone who treats workers the same way. Also, maybe that he sold out his comrades for the American Fruit Company.
Certainly. I think he will say all of that. You said you have him at your mercy. He is certainly willing to do that. I don't think I'll make you roll a sway for that, because he has no real option in this situation. There's certainly not one he's willing to take. Excellent. So I think
barricading the place. That might be a thing we should do.
Sure thing. I think you can barricade the place, and I believe Augusto, you have a move for this.
Yeah. So switch the character keeper. When you build a defensive structure, it holds up to almost anything. So we will barricade ourselves in here as firmly as a tick on some kind of domestic animal.
Excellent. So I think I am going to. I think because we're coming towards time, I want to do this kind of the end of session stuff. So I think what we will say here is you will barricade the place. Eventually, about half an hour or so's time, maybe a little longer than. Well, no, probably about half an hour after you've actually got barricaded in. The military will turn up, and they will launch an assault on the hacienda. At this point, will you respond with violence from the hacienda?
I mean, I would like to just maybe as the, because it takes the military a little bit of time to set up, right?
Exactly. Yep.
So I would just we have a hostage, right?
Yep.
Do I think that'd be enough to get the military to pause and maybe not immediately kill us?
Or at least call back to someone higher up the food chain, right?
Yep, that's right. It will buy you enough time to exactly that they won't immediately come in.
So we'll have tied him up, and he'll just be we'll just push him out in front of, or make him very clear. Maybe put him in a tower, a high room, and
yeah.
We'll make it known that we have a hostage.
Sure thing. So I think that they will pull back. So I guess that what I want to say here is, are you planning to stick around here in the hacienda for an extended period of time, or is this more just for the show of it? Then you'll just kind of withdraw and move on.
I mean, I'm planning to stick around. I don't know about the other PCs. We're here to take the land back, so.
Yeah, I mean, from Augusto's point of view, they have some kind of a plan that exerts pressure for the military to let them go. He's not interested in a last martyrdom stand, but neither is he going to run at the first sign of trouble. So
sure thing.
Sitting on the fence, I guess.
Yeah, I have an exit plan, but I will talk to Sofia. It's good that you want to take back the land, but you should think on a bigger scale. Of course, one hacienda is a symbol, and it will show them that we can take something from the landowners. But taking back this land means changing the system governing it.
I'm well aware of that.
Yeah.
And I don't suspect that we will occupy this hacienda for the rest of time. We will have to leave at some point. But I want to make it known that the people will defend their rights to the land. That they will defend this thing, and that the urban workers will stand with them in that cause. I would at least so the military will provide resistance to them. Ideally, we would hold this until the military backs down, and then we ourselves will back down. Well, I understand if you don't want to be a part of that.
I will be a part of this, and just when I met you, and you were all about starting this changing the system. That was before you. That was before you were shot, and I've been a bit. I've watched you since then. I know a lot of comrades change after they're wounded. For a moment, I have to admit, I suspected that you were about to give up the fight, and since you know the real cost of martyrdom. But now I'm a bit worried that you do not fear injury in the same way that your fellow farmers and workers do anymore. So just be aware of that. You're still carrying a wound.
You are welcome to take as many of these individuals with you when you depart as you would like. Whatever you think is appropriate. But I will stay with my people, and I will defend this land. I have been forced to run too many times. I will not run again.
Yep, Ricarda nods and walks away, a rifle slung over her shoulder, and gets up on a a position where she has a good view.
Cool. Also, that seemed to me like Ricarda triggered the share a quiet moment move there with Sophia. So, if you would like to roll with your bond with Sophia, please. I do not. I don't think that was. So yeah, this is when you and a comrade share a moment of affection, honesty, or peace. Roll with bond. If the moment is romantic, add +1 to the roll.
Yeah, it wasn't very. Still a 10.
10, perfect. So you can pick 2 from the list, which is carry 1 ongoing when acting as a team, add 1 to bond, or heal 1 harm.
Does that just affect her?
That's right. Yeah, that's from the perspective of
Ricarda.
Sophia. Ricarda, sorry. Yeah.
Yeah. Sure, I'm not harmed, so I'm picking the others.
Yep, certainly. Though, yeah, Sophia, you can also roll that if you wish. Oh well, you can also roll because you were also open in your exchange, so that's cool.
I bond with her as 2.
Cool.
As a 12.
Yeah. So again, you get to pick 2 from that list, which again I presume will be the same. Yep. Cool. Also, just as a note, if your bond would go above 3 or below -2, it drops back down to, so if it would go above 3, it drops back down to 1, and you mark a point of experience. So just so you're aware of that. Cool. And I think that's where we will leave things for this evening. And we will come back next time. So there is a couple of end of session moves that we have to do now. Just check, we have hit 11 o'clock now. Are people okay staying around a few more minutes just to do this? But if not, then that's not a problem. Cool. So yeah, are these in the cheat sheet? I think they are. Yeah, so the first one is adjust bond. At the end of each session, name a comrade to whom you feel closer and increase your bond by 1. If this raises your bond to +4, mark experience and reset your bond to +1. If there is no comrade to whom you feel closer, choose one from whom you feel alienated and reduce your bond by 1. Again, if that takes you to -3, then you mark experience and go back to 0. So I'll go round again in Carrot Keeper order. So Ricarda, do you feel like you have grown closer to someone in this session?
Yeah, I think Augusto did well in this endeavor, and I see him as less amateurish here.
Cool. Yeah, so yeah, you can put your bond up with him by 1.
Yeah, it's glorious 0 now.
Excellent. Cool. And Augusto, do you think you have grown closer to someone in this session?
Yeah, I think I was going to reciprocate with that. I think Augusto feels closer to Ricarda. No one mentioned any kind of painful history, right? So, and they seem to cooperate a bit better than maybe they have in the past. So yeah, I will bump that up to a glorious -1.
Nice. Perfect. And finally, Sophia, do you feel like you have grown closer to anyone in this session?
Yeah, I mean, Ricarda decided to stay here, right? In what might very well be like a fight to the death. So that definitely feels like I'm closer to her. So I'll bump my 3 down to a 0 and take experience.
Cool. Perfect. That's oh, sorry. It goes down to 1. So yeah, if you hit 3, it goes down to 1. If you hit if you hit 4, technically, it goes down to 1. If you would go below -2, it goes up to 0. So that's cool. Yeah. So That's good. Now the last bit we have to do is if we flip over to the party tab in the character keeper, we have the pathways to revolution. So the first thing we need to do here is decide who amongst you do you think best embodied the spirit of the revolution in the session today.
Yeah, question is if we are internationalist or nationalist here.
That is technically true, yeah.
I mean, if we wanted to game this, because I feel like the thing that we just did was activate a zealotry move, right? I've got high spirit.
I mean, also we'll probably. I think you've probably hit more than one today, so we'll be rolling on a couple of them. But yeah,
yeah. Does anybody have a particular preference?
I mean, I think Adam, Sophia is definitely hitting the zealotry hard, right? Trying to get this, path of solidarity between the urban and rural parts of the party going. I think that's. I mean, that the way you were playing it anyway, the way we were playing it seemed more like zealotry, somehow avoiding violence. I don't know how that happened.
yeah, I was surprised too. Cool. Yeah, no, I think that sounds fair. Cool. So, what I'll do basically is I'll go through each of these pathways and in turn and ask the question on it. So the first one is force. Do you think that your party used its strength to crush the opposition?
Certainly not.
No, I was going to say I think you definitely demonstrated strength, but I don't think you did really much crushing of opposition today. So yeah, I'd agree. I don't think we're rolling on that one. Second, organization. When your party executes a daring plan with precision, I would argue that you absolutely did that one today. Your plan remained fairly coherent from the outset and was really achieved with little problems. So I think that one is absolutely on the cards. So Sophia, if you could roll with mind, please.
That is a 10.
That is a 10. So you have gained your first rank in organization. Your party is tightly structured. When you need help from party headquarters, you can usually get it. When they give you orders, they expect them to be followed to the letter. So I think that makes sense. I think that this stand that you've made is impressing on it's giving the party more drive, but with more drive, there's also coming more expectations and more organization. So next is zealotry. When your party does something high profile to inspire the oppressed masses, absolutely roll with spirit. You'll also roll with a +1 on this because it's your party's favored approach. You can at this point change the favored approach if you want to, but I think it makes sense for this one. We keep it where it is.
Farthest down with the zealotry.
Yeah.
So. All right, that is a 7.
Okay, so you have two options here. One of them is the usual option on a 7 to 9, that the public approves of what you've done and everyone gains an experience. Or because we're running a short game, you can instead choose to increase your pathways to revolution in zealotry, but there will be we will start next session with some sort of problem that's affecting the party. So what do you think? What do you want to go for with this?
Is this a group decision?
It's a group decision. Yeah. Sorry.
I mean, trouble is fun. What do you folks think?
Yeah, I mean, not that we're going to have a shortage of problems anyway in the last session, I'm sure, but
Yeah.
more grist for the mill in a short
sure
run.
thing.
Yeah, building
Cool.
for the future in our character advancement isn't probably
Yeah.
a wise move.
Yes, sadly, it's unlikely to have much effect. Either one is unlikely to have much effect at this stage, to be quite honest. It's a bit of a shame. As I said, when I was planning this to be a 5-session run in total, the idea was you probably would have, with luck, you would have hit the final advance for the final session, so you'd actually get the full revolution to kick off. But it's still cool. So what you get for hitting rank 3 in zealotry is that demonstrations in support of your party happen regularly and with great fanfare, which seems very appropriate for what you've done. And I think that's going to play very, very strongly into how this siege situation resolves. Cool. Mayhem. So when your party plants bombs, sets fires, attempts assassinations, or otherwise uses violence indiscriminately, absolutely not. I don't think that's anything here. Fellowship. When your party members risk their lives for each other, roll with bond. I think that this did come into it here. Sorry, forgetting names again. Augusto very much. Well, it didn't materialize. Augusto's life was very much at stake when he intervened with that police officer. So I think that one counts. So with that, you roll with bond. This is a bit of a weird one. I'm not quite sure what really the intent was here. I presume that you can just choose to roll with whichever bond you have that is highest. It's a bit vague, but yeah, that seems like the sensible way of doing it.
Sure. Is Augusto I'm guessing?
No, so that's still Sophia.
All right. Well, all of my bonds are 1, so
At least that solves the dilemma.
all right. So I guess we get that one too.
Yeah. So what did you get?
An 11.
Oh, perfect. So yes, you get the first rank in fellowship. Your party recruits for, again, this one probably, actually no, that's not true, because we probably will be having a new character join next time. Your party recruits friends. Each new comrade starts with an additional +1 bond with someone in the party. Cool. Well, thank you very much, everyone. I am going to stop the broadcast section now. Thank you very much for playing. It was good fun, and thank you for watching. If you are watching this, and we'll find the button.